Welcome to Wash Talk, everyone, the Car Wash Podcast. I'm your host, Rich DiPaolo, and joining me today we have Nick Haase, co-founder of Maintain X. Nick, thanks for taking some time today.
Rich, thank you for taking some time. I'm excited to be here.
Great, yeah. I wanted to get you on the program today to discuss how preventive maintenance strategies can really help car wash operators avoid costly downtime and keep
Yeah.
customers coming back. You know, with all this increased volume these car washes are seeing these days, we need that equipment to be running in tip-top shape and operating, obviously, so there is no unplanned downtime and we're not
Yeah.
turning customers away. But before we get to those tips there, why don't we learn a little bit more about your company and its background? Can you share kind of its history serving car wash operators?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Maintain X, we started the business in 2018, and it was with sort of a simple premise. It initially kind of started as like a maintenance management software solution. And if you were familiar with the landscape back then, way back 6 years, 6.5 years ago, there was solutions on the market, over 300 that were on the market. So it was like, why do we need 301? What's the piece that's missing there? Well, one of the key observations we had was that people were still primarily using pen and paper, analog workflows, and it didn't make any sense. I was like, even if you can put aside this world of AI and what's coming down the pipe there, it still made a lot of sense to become data driven. And if you were doing it on pen and paper, most of that data, if you were even writing it down, wasn't getting back into these software systems if they were even being used by folks at all. And one of the key insights we saw was that, well, people do the work out in the field, out on the floor at the point of where the equipment is. They're not sitting behind a desk, and none of the software out there was really optimized for that technician that's doing work in the field not behind a desk. And so we built a mobile first product to kind of address that as a pain point that people needed the information and then of what to do, what order to do it, how to do it in the palm of their hand. And so that's sort of the inception of where we brought Maintain X to market with. Now, it was probably about a year, maybe less than that, into our journey on the market, being in the app store, when we started to see some car wash and customers come in. To be clear, we weren't explicitly going out and looking for them. Our initial sort of audience that we had in mind with this was like manufacturing companies and facility management folks. I mean, car wash certainly fit the bill, but it was an industry that we didn't have as much of an appreciation for how vast it had grown and how sophisticated they'd become. Um, and I'm seeing it in my daily life everywhere I go. But putting two and two together, really started to open our eyes up. And so we started working with some early customers and understanding some of the challenges that they were facing were kind of the same thing that those manufacturers and those facility folks are, which is we have physical assets that we need to maintain and keep up and running, and in order to help us keep making money. I'm like, well, we help with that, right? And so as we got to know them better and understand their challenges, one of the things we grow our product is gotten to the point where we're one of the fastest growing companies across the entire software industry, period. In part because we were able to service such a wide, you know, customer base. But car wash is a very special place in my heart because it's some of the most interesting and high integrity and like really honest feedback that we've had from customers. These folks are they know their reliability, they know what they need, they're not afraid to ask for it, and have been incredibly instrumental to us building product, developing our product and building a roadmap that helps them become more digitally mature and advanced as we've grown. So today we're working. I don't have the exact numbers, but I think we're in almost half of the car washes in the United States today are being run on Maintain X. Um, I maybe plus or minus 10% there, but it's a lot. And some of the big clients that you may be familiar with are customers like Take Five, and Whistle Express were both using us before they just recently got together. Companies like Breeze Through, Tommy Express, Love Car Wash. So we've got a large group of folks, and what's been really exciting is helping them. A lot of this was their first journey into managing reliability in a digital format, at least within the car wash ecosystem. Maybe they had worked in other industry, which I know car wash has done a great job of bringing in reliability professionals from all walks of life to help kind of which I think is a really unique facet of car wash. You go to a manufacturing company and people are generally don't have a lot of cross for functional experience. They're generally if they work somewhere else as another manufacturer, car wash people have worked from all sorts of verticals and industries, and it's become a melting pot of some of the best and brightest in the reliability world as a result of that. And one of the key insights that I learned early on was how downtime really is like lost revenue for them. It's every minute a tunnel is offline is a minute that a customer drives to a competitor across the street. And with the subscription models that almost all car washes run on today, you can go across the street if your tunnel's down. So they had a very tight correlation between reliability and retention. If they kept their tunnels running and they didn't go down and they had their operation fully up and working, they would almost it was extremely predictable. And that variability really only was introduced with reliability challenges. So some of the smartest folks in this space today are really doubling down, tripling down, and realizing that like preventive maintenance can be a brand strategy. Clean, functioning sites build trust and increase that subscriber retention if they can if their customers trust that if I go to your location, whether it's the same one every day, every week, or I travel a lot, I drive around a lot, I can always trust that one of your sites is open, and going to be working. It's become something that is that dependability it can be a differentiator in the ecosystem today. So it's kind of a bit about how we started to get into the car wash space, and now they're pushing us to do all sorts of like extra innovative things with making connecting to PLCs and all the sensors that exist in their ecosystem, their water meter sensors, and so it's been a lot of fun working with them, and we've got a lot of exciting things that we're continuing to build out for them.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's certainly an interesting journey into
Yeah.
the car wash market, and glad to see it's going well and catching on. As you say, time is money for these operators during operated hours of operation. So I'm glad you mentioned a brand strategy or maintaining that brand identity by being a reliable place. I don't know about you, Nick, but when I go get my car washed, if the line
Yeah.
is too long or if it's shut down, I'm a little frustrated that I have to go to. So customers remember these things. So it's important
Yeah.
to stay ahead with maintenance and be proactive instead of reactive, right? So, uh,
Sure.
just tying back to that brand, reinforcing the brand strategy or brand identity you mentioned. How can
Yeah.
maintenance be used as a tool in differentiating a business from the competition?
Depending on what stage of your reliability journey you're on, um, and what your maturity level is as an organization, not just as a single site. There's different steps that I'd share with somebody based on that answer. If they're coming out of, it's whether it's a brownfield or a greenfield new operation coming into it, maybe there's not a big strategy in place. There's likely a lot of little details to that place that it feels like whack-a-mole. Every day something's falling apart. And so just being able to put and maybe they're in an area where they've got a lot of loyal customers. Maybe they've got a friendly face that they brings in a lot of retention. It's not necessarily maybe it's because a lot of car washes, it's people for forward brands. And so the people are maybe what's keeping the pull of the customer coming in, and then maybe they tolerate some of the reliability struggles. So you can find those opportunities to sort of start to pick up and maybe level that up and take that operation to a place where you're not being you can be a little more proactive, which is what that digitalization allows you to do. Um, and make that part of your brand. It's not just for the customers, which are obviously, I'm in the business of serving customers. Customers come first in a lot of ways, but it's also the people in your organization. And, it's a way to help them understand that you're giving them the tools that they need to do their job effectively. And if they, and, we have customers that have 150% turnover. And so this is the type of tool that can help them feel empowered to understand that, hey, you're giving us the tools that we need to be successful and to do our jobs well, and to make sure that, I'm not calling the manager or the regional manager 5, 6 times in a row over a period of several weeks saying, hey, we need to do a vacuum hose, and he keeps forgetting. The ability to kind of give them that transparent platform to make those simple requests and get ahead of those is kind of the nice one of the other kind of advantages that having that brand strategy not only be external, but an internal kind of mantra that you can instill within your organization's people as well.
Yeah, you mentioned AI earlier in the
Yeah.
conversation. That's got to excite you of the possibilities and potential of what AI, not only is providing insights wise to operators
Yeah.
today, but what does the next 5 years, 10 years, so on as we go forward? What level of
Yeah.
insight and help can AI give to these operators? It's going to be exciting to watch that all unfold. Just on the communication leading up to this interview here today,
Mhm.
Nick, with your team, the phrase "quote unquote" downtime trap was
Yeah.
mentioned. So
Yeah.
it got me curious. What is the downtime trap, and more importantly, really, how can operators avoid it?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, you know, if it's kind of like, hey, are you doing your preventive maintenance today? We most reliability folks conceptually aware of preventive maintenance. Maybe they are even aspirationally attempting to do it, but it's always there's something going wrong at all times. And I think so you can kind of feel like you're in this almost pit of despair almost where it's like, I'd love to do the PMs, but we have 25 things that are broken right now that we have to get ahead of before we can even go do something preventive. Because if I don't do these 25 things, the wash doesn't open, we're not making money. And part of it is like helping understand that digitization journey isn't just about bringing people to just go straight to PMs. That initial digitization part is allowing people to help them move operators from a fix when it breaks to a fix before it breaks sort of culture. And when you're tracking all those reactive issues, you're going to start to be able to understand and identify patterns in a way that's a lot easier to do when it's all digitally broken down, and our real-time reporting helps kind of, abstract it away from the real problem. So an example of that is, hey, we have this downtime lag because we aren't, getting our vacuum hoses do break down often. Maybe we should stop maybe buying that same brand of vacuum hose. Have we told our OEM that our distributor that vacuum hose is breaking down every 2 weeks, every month? Um, no, we wouldn't really think about it. We were just replace, replace, replace. It allows you to surface things that might seem tedious or maybe not your biggest fire of the day. But now you can say, hey, if we switch to this other hose, it actually lasts for 9 months or however much, length of time. And it starts to surface little things like that yeah, you have 25 things to knock out, but next time we fix that vacuum hose, it's going to be one that's not going to bring a fire to our doorstep in 2 weeks again. And then you're going to start to identify all of those other components that um, maybe you're not installing them to the OEM specification. You just did it the way Jim thought it was always done. And now you recognize that if you install it the correct way, it's going to last an extra 50% longer or 80% longer and maybe 150% longer. Like if you start, and so that's a reactive fix that starts to become preventive because you're starting to not do things just the same old way you've always done them. And it allows you to kind of zoom out a little bit and engage your OEMs in a more thoughtful way to help your distributors to say, hey, maybe, whether maybe they don't have another brand of hose, but say, hey, I need another hose or we're not working with y'all going forward. Or whatever it is, right? And they'll find ways to work with you. They need that feedback as well. But if you don't have the metrics to show them, sometimes you can just feel like you're screaming into the void. And that goes up and down the chain, whether you're just the frontline technician or operator, or you're a manager who's talking to your distributor, and you feel this gives you the data to back up some of those reactive points so that you can start to make that, start to become more proactive from that perspective. And so like digitization is not about adding more complexity to your job and to your work. It's about less guesswork. So how do we take a lot of that mental energy that frankly, most of the people I've seen in the car wash industry are more than smart enough to figure out. They just don't have the time to sit and think about it long enough. And so we want to give them that time back so that they can zoom out and look at some of these data and these insights, and then they can make the obvious sort of, connections from there.
One thing I know any business owner does is they want to run their business wisely and smartly. And especially this year, it seems like the word efficiency is being thrown around. So,
Yes.
a lot of operators in this industry scrutinize everything that they spend their time and resources and especially money on. So, how can operators accurately measure a return on investment on preventive maintenance? What are the best, and just as a follow-up, what are the best practices to ensure that you're getting buy-in on this investment really from the top down?
Yeah, it's a good question. So our goal is simple: fewer breakdowns, better customer experience, more money in your pocket as the owner, right? The bottom line is even if you don't have great baseline data, maybe you don't know exactly what your downtime is. I mean, your PLCs on your washes generally give you some time windows, but you're going to start to see the money that was going out the door for a lot of these frequent things. You're going to start to see that money going out the door will slow down. You're going to start to see some of that visibility. And as you're thinking about efficiency, a lot of the operators, they're already measuring water and chemical usage. Why not track your maintenance with the same precision? Why not start to bring that into the same ecosystem with your maintenance and start to identify patterns and trends? And again, it's not even about necessarily, reinventing the wheel here. I think there's a lot of simplicity that comes from just connecting some dots that exist in these many silos. You don't necessarily think the correlation exists between some of these things, or maybe you kind of think there is, but you don't know how to make those dots fully connect in a way that like, playing around with Excel spreadsheets and you're just like, yeah, pulling your hair out. I don't know what I'm doing here. It's been a while. We want to make that some of those observations um, really simple, kind of give people this data scientist in their pocket. And even if you don't even know what that means, it's somebody who kind of looks at the data for you, does all that smart work and gives you those and just gives you the stuff you need, which is the insight. What do I do now? Where do I spend, and that's what hopefully drives folks towards greater efficiency. Because I'll tell you one thing, of all the companies we work with, from the massive enterprises that have, hundreds of sites across the country to the ones that have one or two washes, the universal truth is that even if you have the budget, you can't find the labor you want today. There's not enough people. Um, and so it's a question of how do we do more with less? It's a it's a it's an economic it's like a just a macroeconomic constraint that everybody's under. It's even if you can't afford that, you got the job listing up and you're not getting the qualified skilled laborers you need. At this point, I know people who are just happy if people show up sober and on time. Um, those are kind of the baseline parameters. So how do we enable those folks who are less skilled to do the work that needs to be done for your shop, your wash to run efficiently, safely, and ideally as low cost and while still delivering that customer experience that's going to allow your brand to keep, not only steady but continue to grow. And that's sort of where we want to kind of help people understand that digital tools like this can make you know, a very, very significant, surprising to some impact, measurable impact on the bottom line.
Yeah, I'm a writer by trade, so I
Yeah.
enjoy the Microsoft Word program, but Excel has often sent me off in rants over the years using
Yeah.
that program myself. So I want to continue this conversation, Nick, on technology with these next
Mhm.
couple of questions here. So,
Sure.
how can the use of a computerized maintenance management system, or commonly known as a CMMS, how can that CMMS benefit car wash operators?
Yeah. So it's first of all, it's about building habits and visibility. So what gets tracked gets done. And if you're not tracking it, maybe you're tracking it on maybe, oh, we got a checklist in the back office. Guys going, well, you could check that off any time of the day. You may be like, oh, our site supervisor's coming by in 3 days. Let me go make sure I checked all the box. You don't have that timestamp authenticity and audit trail of knowing exactly when it was done. So you're only as good as your best manager at these sites if you're running an operation like this. This is a great way to have accountability at scale without needing to be physically there, kind of hovering over their shoulders. So, when you think about like some of the other benefits, it's like, operators gain better inventory control and safety tracking and technician accountability. Just even managing like training and talent, with all the turnover, being able to build out these onboarding checklists, daily SOPs to help that younger and less experienced staff know what to do, and in a digital format that they're used to. A lot of these young kids, they barely use paper at school, if they use it at all now. They're all on Chromebooks and they're on TikTok all the time. So we got to figure out, how do we give them a tool, like the tools that meet them where they're at. I talk to a lot of folks who've been in the industry for a long time, and as much as we want them to be able to say, I had to walk uphill in the snow both ways, uh, barefoot, you should too.
Sure.
At the end of the day, you got a business to run, and the best way to kind of understand the generational shift that's happening in our workforce right now is to enable that younger generation with digital tools, rather than try to, force them to do it the old-fashioned way, because they've got a choice of where to work, and they're kind of voting with their feet when it comes to some of these, you know, the day in their life type of conveniences, or how their work is, what kind of tools they're being given. And so if you can give them modern, easy to use platforms, that are built for the realities of the wash bay, not the back office, it's going to make them a lot more excited to engage and be part of that digital transformation motion, if you will, than if you were to try to get them to do this all, the old school way.
Yeah, it's such a great point, and we often say no two car washes are the same, and no two technicians are the same, right? So, what is the best way to incorporate technology into a car wash maintenance program without overcomplicating it for the technician?
Yeah. And it's again, it's about how do you simplify the experience that end user has. So with our tool, like one of the things we find that has been critical to our success is that, they're not going to watch hours of training videos. They're not going to, if they can't figure out, it's like, how many hours of, how many training videos do they have to watch to get on Instagram or TikTok? Like zero. They open the app up, they figure it out, and if the app doesn't scroll or work, they just leave, right? So the app has to just function, has to just work, has to be intuitive, and so part of that journey is making it so sync and easy on that end user experience, so that they can engage with it. And then the beauty of it is that, the simplicity on the front end gives you the valuable, interesting, complex insights on the back end, because you're capturing all of those daily actions, those activities. You're getting that accountability, and then you're understanding, like, where's our money going? What's going on out the door? I even have folks that are using 18X connected with um their tunnel systems to track how many, uh to audit how many cars are actually going through the tunnel, because they're like, I know their friends come by and they just give them free washes, and um they don't know how many of those they're going out the door, and so they're able to audit things like that and track it as well, using, sensors and things like that. And I was like, is that really that big of a problem? And apparently, in some places, it can be. I was shocked, and so, it's not like a car wash is, you're not giving away $1 million gold bar every time they go through, but if you're giving away dozens of those a day, it adds up pretty quick, and that can be the difference between, a profitable month or a one where you're a little thinner on the margin. So, because it's not just the chemical usage, it's the time that you're creating delays, and that weight, like you talked about at the beginning. It's the wear and tear on that equipment that is factored into your costs for every time a car goes through. And when you start to screw with those metrics, um, you know, that can be a big element. So, you know, that's kind of how we think about that simplifying that experience for folks, is give them like those basic simple tools that allow you to kind of capture those high level insights that can unlock the value that you're maybe trying to figure out. How do we get this right? I see some of these people over here, they seem to be just, you know, cooking with gas. They're printing money, and ours is, it's a hit or miss every month if we can land where we think we're supposed to, and what are we doing wrong? I think you're going to find a lot of that. Those surprises are in the maintenance reliability side of the house.
Interesting. Interesting. All right. Well, it sounds like you're working with a lot of top operators out there in the car wash industry. You certainly outlined your experience in other markets working with facility managers. Are there any expensive and common mistakes that you see either operators or maybe facility managers make when it comes to maintenance? And how can car wash operators specifically avoid these mistakes?
Yeah. I mean, it really is that run to failure culture that sets so many customers back of ours. If, it's one of those things where you may have an owner who's a little bit less excited about change, less excited. They don't like the idea of having to spend a little money on tools that are going to help them, make more money. Because in some ways if you don't frame it correctly, right? It's like, oh, we're gonna use this to save money on maintenance. Well, we're spending this much money on maintenance already. You're telling me that this tool is going to magically just eat that cost away and save us more? It will. In the time, once you get it cooking, it absolutely does that. But it also helps. The other side of that equation is how many more can we sell? How much can we grow? And so helping them kind of understand that other side of like how much growth are we missing? Not just how much cost do we have. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I see as well is just not understanding the reliability trade-off that exists. It's not just about trying to cut that cost down. And you will cut the cost down. That's table stakes. That's going to happen. But it's about how much growth. And that's something that unless you're sitting out there with a ticker and you're trying to see how many cars actually come in, pull away, or maybe they see a long line or they see that it's down, so they don't even pull in and capture that. It's kind of this unknowable number of how many more customers could we have had if our reliability was a little more consistent. Um, and that's the exciting part I've seen with a lot of our clients that isn't top of mind when they're necessarily coming to work, coming to talk with us right at the beginning of their journey.
Yeah,
That
what's
and
the
they,
opportunity?
yeah,
Go ahead.
it was the
Sorry, Nick. Go
opportunity.
ahead.
Yeah, no, you took the word out of my mouth. What is that opportunity, right? Yeah,
Yeah, what's that opportunity we're losing? And not only that, in the car wash industry, it's been, you mentioned membership before, so the stakes are even higher today. But then, car wash business over these many decades, so much of it relies on that word of mouth and that reputation. So the tentacles to that opportunity being lost go even further when you think about it, right? So
yeah, it compounds quickly.
for sure. So I appreciate you taking some time here today, Nick, to talk with us here on carwash.com. I've certainly
Yeah,
learned a lot. If there are any operators out there that are looking to learn more information or maybe see how Maintain X could work for them, is there a website you'd like to give out or a phone
yeah.
number at all?
Absolutely, yeah. MaintainX.com is our website. I'm sure we'll have a link or at least spelled out somewhere here in the comments or in the description. We actually do have a phone number now that you can call on there as well if you want to go straight to a live human. If you want to talk to me, pick my brain, I'm always happy to chat. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'll make sure to share that as well. And yeah, and we'll be and if you're going to be at the car wash show, any of those upcoming events, you'll be able to find me and my team out there as well.
Well, you can count one person. That's me who will be at the car wash show, and I'll make sure to swing by and say hello. All right.
Awesome, Rich. Looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks for taking some time, Nick.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Take care.